welcome to our first Seg history video, and in this video we're going to discuss about Hurricane Isaias, also nicknamed, in my opinion, the East Coast Nightmare, and it's for a good reason as the system was quite impactful, and you'll see why in this video. But first and foremost, a little history about Isaias. This is this did occur back in the year of 2020 in the midst of all the horrible things that are going on that year, as you all may know. But the system itself formed in late July 2020, which is a rare time for letter I storms to form, as usually with tropical storms, especially when you get to the letter I, these systems tend to form more in late August and early September, according to climate records with these storms. But with 2020 itself, it was a record-breaking tropical storm season, and even by early August, we had already seen 8 tropical storms developing at a time, and that's what led up to Isaias forming here late on Wednesday, July 29th, 2020. Actually formed very late on 28th and early on 29th, so more night before into early the next day. The system was already taking shape, and by the National Hurricane Center, it was denoted as a Tropical Depression 9 just south of Puerto Rico early that morning. And not even 12 hours later, the system would develop into a tropical storm by literally around noon that day. So already the system starting to develop and stream from the ocean. The water's kind of warming the system up, and by then that's how we got the system kind of reaching that point. And notice that the track of the system, according to the National Hurricane Center, it had it going right towards Florida by as early as August the 3rd. So this is Monday, August the 3rd. This hurricane track had it showing going right towards Florida. Now, by the next day, well, late the next night into early on Friday, July 31st, the system became a hurricane as it got enough strength to become that with winds up to over 75 miles per hour. So already impactful system. It swept through the Dominican Republic, bringing them strong winds, heavy rainfall, probably some mudslides occurring as well as a result of the system. But notice the track, how it kind of pushes away from Florida now and has it going right towards the East Coast, maybe brushing the East Coast. But this is as of very early Friday, July 31st of 2020. But the next day, the track shifted a little bit to the west towards the East Coast, but by then the system was making its way into the Caribbean, bringing strong winds, likely some heavy rainfall, and again, probably more mudslides occurring in these areas. So definitely not a good situation that occurred in the Bahamas as a result. That system moving right through. But the Bahamas itself would act as a shield itself, as by the next day, due to the system making its way on land in the Bahamas, it kind of weakened the system a bit, dropped it down to a tropical storm, so it kind of lost its hurricane status for a little bit there by early that next morning on August 2nd. But by the 3rd, late on the 3rd, as the system approached the land, the system became a hurricane. Notice the track, how it went from, again, just about to hit land on this slide to literally on land is in the next few couple slides. That's how fast the track change of the system as. With the National Hurricane Center, they were looking at the models, and it did indicate the system would be pushing a bit to the west, and as a result, that's how we had the system again poised for land. And by late on August the 3rd of 2020, the system did make landfall in extreme southern parts of North Carolina as a Category 1 hurricane. So fortunately, looking at the picture in the background, this is the actual real picture from the system. It caused quite a bit of damage, so definitely not a good look, especially as the system made landfall. And even throughout the next day, the system did bring heavy rainfall, tornadoes, and heavy rainfall to numerous states. So basically, every state along the East Coast, even Vermont, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, saw damaging winds, heavy rainfall, and tornadoes from the system alone. And this picture is showing New York in the middle of the day on the 4th. You can see the heavy rainfall coming down, pretty strong winds occurring with the system. And by late on the night on the 4th, the system had made its way into Canada as still a tropical storm with winds up to 45 miles per hour, so quite a significant system. But by midnight, just shortly after midnight on early in the morning on Wednesday, August 5th, the system did become a post-tropical system, meaning that it lost its tropical storm characteristics, and now it's just a tropical depression again and dissipated by later on that same day. So pretty much the system was used up of energy. It was pretty much fully on land now, and by then it was already done with its life cycle. Now, some facts about Hurricane Isaias, I'm sure you guys probably want to know. Again, the system did occur in late July to early August in 2020. It was one of the earliest ice storms on record in the midst of a record-breaking season. And the system did reach a Category 1 hurricane, like I did mention before, that happened with Isaias as well. And the system itself did produce 46 tornadoes. All this happened in the U.S. as the system did move quickly through the East Coast. And also with Isaias, we saw several inches of rainfall, up to about 9 inches in some places as well. And wind gusts with the storm reached up to 60 to 80 miles per hour as it did move along the East Coast. But there was a confirmed report of a 147 mile per hour wind gust above, on top of the mountain of Mount Washington in New Hampshire, which is insane, as that's quite a rare feat to occur at that time of the year. And I'm sure no one was on the mountain at that time, but a a station to record at that area that there was a 147 mile per hour wind gust that occurred along the mountain. So quite a strong system, even for them as well. And unfortunately, 12 people did perish, either due to heavy rainfall, flooding, or tornadoes associated with Isaias. So unfortunately, definitely an impactful system that occurred. And the damage from the system ranged up to $5 billion damage, if not more. So quite a strong um, system that did bring quite a damage. And you may be thinking, well, it's a Category 1 storm. How can it cause that much damage? And again, this system hit the East Coast, meaning that there was a lot of people in those areas, and with that being the case, that's why there was a lot of damage. As with a lot of people on the East Coast, there's a lot of infrastructure as well, and with that, that's why you get a lot of damage occurring with the system. Now, you also may ask, why did Isaias move so fast? As usually with tropical storms, they don't typically move fast once they're on land. They kind of slow down and then they die off eventually. But with Isaias itself, it had some influence from a cold front, which is also moving across the U.S. at this time. You can see with this blue line with triangles pointing out towards the right. This is a cold front, and this cold front was sweeping through much of the country. And at the same time, Isaias was making landfall and moving its way up the East Coast. And the reason why it was moving its way towards the west is because this cold front acts as a mechanism to push out all the moisture. As usually with cold fronts, they're the thing that that ushers in cooler, drier, more stable air. But in advance of fronts, there's lots of moisture, instability, and with that, that's what led to Isaias kind of remaining strong and also kind of staying along the East Coast, as this front kind of just kept it moving off to northeast, as the front was also moving to northeast. And with that, that's how we got the system kind of staying in the same areas throughout much of its life cycle. And you also may ask, why didn't it dissipate quickly? As you may think, oh, well, you said that once the storm's on land, it loses its strength and starts to pretty much die off. Well, this isn't always the case, as sometimes tropical storm systems can get a little help from a little friend known as the Atlantic Ocean. And unfortunately, especially when we have a lot of moisture coming in advance of a front, that's how you get these systems staying strong for a while, meaning that it keeps its tropical storm characteristics and can maintain that for quite a while. It's as long as long as it's near coast. Now, if the system was in West Virginia, for instance, it wouldn't have that impact, meaning that it would fall apart. But since the system was happening more towards the East Coast, along the East Coast, that's what kept it going on for a time. Even looking at this picture, this is from late on the morning of August 8th, as the system had already made landfall and was making its way up the coast. It still had a well-defined look to it, almost a little eye, but not quite, but still enough to look like a tropical storm as it made its way up the coast, and it maintained that for much of its life cycle too, along the coast as well. And you also may ask, why was Isaias not retired? As unfortunately, yeah, the system was not retired, despite it causing $5 billion in damage. And the main reason why is because in 2020, there were several other damaging hurricanes that occurred, such as we had Sally, we had Laura, we had Iota, we had Ada, we had Delta. Yeah, some of the Greek letters were thrown in there as we ran out of names that year, meaning that we ended up using the Greek letter alphabet. Now, Laura was significant because it did bring billion over 30, close to $40 billion in damage. Don't have the correct number on top of my head, but it caused quite a bit of damage and did lead to quite a few deaths, unfortunately, with the system as well. Iota, kind of same thing, lots of damage and quite a few deaths as well. And Ada was mainly because of how deadly it was, as it did hit a impoverished region, and unfortunately, that's what led to it being such an impactful hurricane, as it did bring a lot of that with it as well. But Isaias itself, in comparison to all these other hurricanes, nowhere near close, which is why the National Hurricane Center was like, we should not retire this because technically there were worse hurricanes than this. It doesn't mean that Isaias is not important, but it still does mean that, again, it was kind of up in that threshold for, again, could have been the retired hurricane, but again, if it wasn't for these other hurricanes, it would have very well been retired. Now, the other question is, will there be another Isaias? And the answer to that is yes, as some of you may have heard murmurs that Isaias is coming back this year. So I'm sure it kind of had you guys a little spooked, but the good news is for now, we are only on the Ds, but even so, don't let your guard down because any tropical storm system could become another Isaias in a moment. And right now, as of today, we do have Cristobal here in Atlantic that did form not too long ago this morning, and we do have a couple more systems down to our south where we have the red X and orange X that indicates developing tropical systems. Now, the red X means that the system is going to form very soon. The orange X means that it's on its way to forming at some point down the line, so kind of a moderate chance. So unfortunately, pretty soon we're going to have Dolly coming up, and probably behind that we're going to have Edward forming behind the system. And notice the direction it's going. It's going off to the northwest, meaning that the Caribbean should be on watch and potentially the East Coast, as unfortunately, again, the system could curve very much to the East Coast. But as of right now, again, we're so far out from the system. But even so, this is just a reminder that any system can become new Isaias. Even a system doesn't, even if we don't get these next two hitting land, or let's say it goes out towards the Gulf and misses the East Coast, it can still happen at any point. It can happen with Josephine, it can happen with Leah, it can happen with next year, or even in 2028. Any storm can be easily become a new Isaias, and it could probably not even be the same way. It could be a stronger hurricane, or it could be a weaker hurricane. You never know. And again, some lessons from Isaias, as I'm sure you guys probably want to know. I'm sure you guys are probably not interested, but again, these are really important facts. Just to let you know, despite tropical storm systems hitting land, it does not always mean that they're going to dissipate. As long as there's a large body of water near it, again, that can keep systems from developing. But if it's in Indiana, or if it's in Oklahoma, there's no energy, there's no moisture for it to keep going. But if it's along the East Coast, for example, in Delaware, that system's still going to keep going on and on at the way it is. And also it means that no coastal state is safe from a tropical storm system. Even Maine. Maine can still get hit by tropical storm systems, as well as, again, you just saw Isaias impacted them as well. And tropical storm systems can also still produce significant tornado outbreaks, despite the system moving so fast. As you saw with Isaias, 46 tornadoes occurred of the system. The record is over 120 tornadoes. And that could have easily happened with Isaias if it had to sit around just a little bit longer. It could have easily caused that. But even so, this means that, again, you can't even let your guard down with a tropical system, as tornadoes can still happen out of nowhere with these systems, as well as these systems are carrying a lot of moisture. Same thing as with a actual severe weather outbreak. We have a strong low pressure system moving in. It's kind of like that, where you have that ongoing tropical storm system in different facets. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like. And if you want to see more of this content, especially about more weather history, seg history, don't forget to subscribe to always get updated on whenever I post a video on this channel. Have a great day and stay weather aware.